We are going to jump in a time machine and travel back to 1964 when Hobart Smith released his 1964 Saltville, Virginia banjo album. This is going to be a faithful, painstakingly transcribed version of Last Chance. I'm going to teach it to you nice and slow. I'm going to walk you through the hard parts and the easy parts. Welcome to Banjo Quest. So for this patron-only video, the first thing we need to talk about is the power of imitation. Imitation often gets a bad rap in the arts and in other walks of life, but I think of imitation as an incredibly powerful tool. I like to become a player for a day, to seek out a player that I admire and watch their every move, try to imitate them as exactly as I can, and in the process, I both fall short and learn a ton of things that I might not have discovered on my own. And that's what we're doing today. We are going to try on Hobart Smith's shoes today, note for note, finger by finger. Let's get started. All right, let's get some of the tuning notes out of the way because there's something funky going on here. I play Last Chance in FCFCD. I do that for a couple reasons, and I'll disclose those to you in a further video. I am tuned to Hobart's relative tuning today. So he tunes his fourth string up to a D. So it's F, D, F, C, D. That gives a very modal sound, and I'm going to play that for you now. Again. The tuning Hobart is actually in is a whole step up from that, G, E, G, D, E. I'm not going to bother with that, but if you want to play along with his recording in the ultimate, perfect, authentic way, you'll want to tune up a whole step, and that will bring your fifth string up to a G. And that's cool because if you wanted to play with other people, especially a guitarist, they could be playing sort of E minor or E minor 7 chords, and they would be able to play along with you if you were capoed up to Hobart's original tuning. For ease of tuning, don't worry about that today. Just get into F, D, F, C, D. And that will put us a whole step down from Hobart on his album. So what I'm going to do is this. I'm going to play you the tune note for note right now, nice and slow. And then I'm going to play it medium. And then we're going to talk about it after. At the very end of this video, I'm going to play it in the absolute most original tuning that is on the album, just so you can hear what that would sound like. All right, let's get started. All right, let me play more fast here. All right, a couple of really cool things about this song, just so you can really appreciate what's going on, and then we'll dive into some of the mechanics that are happening with the right and left hands. The first thing I think of when I think of this tune is asymmetry. So if you look at your tab, we've got 8 measures in the A part, we've got 7 measures in the B part. That means it's like sitting on a stool with one short leg, and that stool would have 2 legs, which would make it really unwieldy, but okay, so that analogy does not work at all. You get what I'm saying? It's a little bit lopsided, and that's what makes that B part feel so odd, the way it connects back up with both itself and back up to the A part once we get to the end of the B part. So I think asymmetry not only in terms of the measures, this is a crooked tune, both in measure count, but also I think in tonality. So in the A part, we've got this do, re, mi pattern. These are all big whole steps. And then suddenly in the B part, we've got this bluesy, that sort of grinding half step on that third string. So this tune is all about that sort of tension between symmetry and asymmetry. It's also a lot about desperation. If we think about what is a last chance, what is the narrative, what is the story behind the tune, we don't really know because there are no lyrics, but we can imagine that this is a moment of desperation. The other thing that gives it that desperate feel is the speed that Hobart is playing at. I clocked him at, get ready, 143 beats per minute, half time. Half time, that means that if you were to set your metronome to represent every downstroke, a click for every downstroke, that would be 286 beats per minute. My metronome on my phone doesn't even go that high. It is extremely, extremely fast, and that's one of the reasons why it is so desperate sounding. It's also one of the reasons why it's really hard to imitate. That is absolutely blazing fast. You can't get that fast without a whole ton of practice. We're not going to play it that fast, so just don't be too concerned with that. Let's just work through what's going on here. We've got our A part. If you've been working alongside me, you're going to find this do, re, mi very comfortable. It's this 3rd, 5th, and 7th fret on the first string. There are no drop thumbs for miles in this tune. Do you notice that? Not a single drop thumb. It's very beginner friendly in that way. So our basic A part is a big brush on strings 3, 2, and 1. That collects all of that beautiful modal information. Be careful with your brushes. Don't sort of overplay them. Keep them sort of in the background. So the melody part, that single note run, the melody can pop over your brush strokes. Don't make those brush strokes too loud. A lot of pull-offs. And he's a ringy player. He's often tagging other strings as he's moving by. You can see that in measure 2. I've got that represented by a mini brush stroke on the inner strings. You beginners, don't worry about that. Just get that second string note in measure 2. on that last ditty, that would be fine. That is the melody note. The other note next to it, that open third string, is a beautiful harmony note. So that's another topic for another day. Old time two stringing, we'll be talking about that soon. And then we're up to the 5th fret with a pull off ditty, and then 7, pull off ditty, bum, brushy. My fret etiquette here is I use my index most of the time for the 3rd fret. I use my middle for the 5th, and I use my ring for the 7th. In that playthrough I did earlier, I might have fudged that a little bit, but that's okay. In general, I'm using 1, 2, 3 in terms of fingers, and I'm not breadcrumbing this because this is an awkward breadcrumbing stretch because each of these are whole steps. You could maybe, if you wanted to use your pinky, but I see no reason to do that. We've got time, so I'm not worried about the breadcrumb rule today. All right, let's talk about measure 7. Measure 7 kept me up for nights, sweating, waking up, crying, in the corner during the day, sobbing, because I was trying to figure out what he was doing. Not really, a little tears. I was trying to figure out what he was doing. I was listening very carefully. I was thinking about it. And then I started playing it up to speed really fast. And that gave me even more information based on the recording. So what I discovered is, first of all, there are lots of ways to solve measure 7. There are ways we could do it that is not the way Hobart Smith does it, and it will sound awesome. We'll talk about that later. But I wanted to give you my very best guess about what Hobart Smith's hands are doing exactly. So I came up with this. We've got a slide up, ditty, pull off, closed pull off, we'll talk about that in a minute, and a ditty. So let's work through this piece by piece. In order for this to work, we're running our fingers here. We're just finished on measure 6 with our index finger. And I get all the way back with my middle finger on the 2nd fret. So my middle finger is going to be used on the 2nd fret, 3rd string. And then I do my slide up, ditty, and it's there that I'm placing this finger, the index finger, down to prepare for a pull off in a closed position. So I'm pulling off with my middle finger, plucking it, and my index stays on that 2nd fret. And this is going to require practice because it's pretty tricky to get the timing right. So what I would do is I would just cycle that 4-note pattern. See how the breadcrumb rule gets really useful in these situations because we're going to, in that loop, fret 2 fingers down at the same time to be in place for that pull off. And then we're there. Now, be light, light, light on that 3rd string because we're tuned down. This is the advantage of tuning it up like Hobart Smith does in that recording. We are tuned down, so this 3rd string is pretty slack right now. If you press too hard, you'll drive it sharp. We don't want to do that. Keep your fingers very, very light on those frets, and that will avoid that problem. The other way to avoid that is to fret close to the frets. All right, so let's put measure 7 together nice and slow. Slide up with the middle. Slide up, ditty, pull off, ditty. Then we send it home on the 4th string. Measure 8 has that alternate string pull-off. Hobart Smith loves his alternate string pull-offs. He does them all day long. It's one of the reasons he's able to get this tune so darn fast. He's offloading work to the left hand. And I like to use my ring finger on the 3rd fret here for that alternate string pull-off on measure 8. It's a great measure just to loop at a variety of different speeds. Generate a lot of speed with the alternate string pull-off. Remember your set stroke for alternate string pull-off. That's what I'm denoting with that first stroke in the 4-note pattern of the aspo here. See that little parentheses with the 3? That means I am setting into the instrument with both hands simultaneously. I set, pull, di, ti, set, pull, di, ti. The thing I see the most, the problem I see the most out there in the wild with people's aspos is that they are waiting to attack the string with their pull-off finger, and they essentially add a 5th step. You can fudge that at lower tempos, but as soon as you get into even moderate tempo zones, that 5th step to the aspo is gonna crush you. It's gonna just make it not sound great. So make sure you're doing your set stroke, interact with the banjo with both right and left hands simultaneously. Set stroke, diddy, set, pull, diddy, set, pull, diddy, and you will be off to the races. All right, on to the B part. Now we're in crooked land. Remember, this is 7 measures, that's it, and then we're back to the top. The cool thing is, we've pretty much done this already. The B part here is really just an exploration and a repeating of measure 7, so you kind of have this in your fingers already. That's what makes this so beginner friendly. Now, for those of you who are thinking, beginner friendly, measure 7 feels impossible. I'm going to give you beginners an alternative to that measure at the end of the video, so stay tuned. All right, let's just work through this nice and slow. Remember, middle finger for that slide in the B part. Slide up, diddy, pull off, diddy. And the diddy at the end of measure 9 is back on the 3rd fret. So it's not open like it was before in measure 7. We're closing that back up to speed, that sounds like. There it is, that. Then a slide up with the middle finger again. Aspo, diddy, measure 13 is slide up, diddy, pull off. Same as measure 9. And then it is lacking that last measure that would make this square, and we are back to the top of the B part. Hit it hard. That's one of the little secrets here. To make the crookedness of this tune really feel weird and crooked, make sure whenever you hit your B part at the beginning or you hit your A part at the beginning, you're activating it with some gusto there, because that will be very strange to the uninitiated. It will sound really cool. So for you beginners, instead of, look at measure 7, and we've got our slide up, slide with the middle finger, slide up, diddy. We're gonna keep that the same. Now out of this, instead of going pull off, open, out of that closed pull off shape, I'm just gonna do a pull off open from the 2nd fret of the 3rd string. That's an awesome 1-for-1 replacement. No one will ever notice except the real banjo nerds, and they're not gonna care anyway. That makes this whole tune much easier. If you're also, you beginners, struggling with your aspos, you could just double thumb that. Keep it easy, make it easy on yourself. No reason to play some terribly difficult part if you don't have to. The aspos can all be turned to 4-5-1-5-4-5-1-5 patterns for you beginners. Now you advanced players, let's rethink measure 7. This should probably be another video, but I'm gonna throw it at you anyway. Measure 7 could be slides all the time. With the index or with the... You got to be very confident in your ability to create an 8th note pair with your slides. Slow down, take that origin note, take time on it. Don't rush it. The trouble here comes into the B part, and this is why I decided that Hobart Smith is probably not sliding both up and down, because we've got to get back to this 3rd fret, and at what was it, 284 or whatever it was, BPM common time, that's going to be not hugely possible unless you barricade yourself in an attic and play banjo for 15 years straight. Maybe you did that. Nobody has time for that. But there's something very charming about using up slides and down slides for some of these patterns. The other thing you could do is, instead of sliding, you could hammer on, and then you're kind of already there. And I would use my index finger on the 2nd fret, 3rd string. And in a lot of ways, that is probably the easiest way to get at exactly what Hobart Smith is trying to articulate there. I can't, and he might be doing that on the recording, I cannot be 100% confident that he's sliding. I think he is. I think. If you can find evidence to the contrary, post it below. I'll check it out. All right, that does it for me today on Banjo Quest. Thanks for joining me. We will be talking about my version of Last Chance very soon, including the FC/FCD tuning. We're going to go into more depth on that. We're going to show you some beautiful chord work in there, and we're going to be also learning a 3rd part that I've written for the tune. I'm really excited for it. Stay tuned. We'll see you next time.